Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and excited for our today's session of Ignite Talks Phase 2. Thank you for joining us as we continue this empowering journey designed to help you become more career ready and confident in today's competitive job market. I want to ask you something. How many of you remember your first interview? Please put a message or something so we can count on how many you have attended the interview before or how many are it's your first interview or something. Please try to interact with us. Okay, I'll start with mine. I remember my first interview. So I had prepared a good CV, read upon all common questions, and was feeling okay until the interviewer asked me, "What's the one thing you have done that you are really proud of, but that's not on your CV?" And honestly, I paused. I knew what I want to say, but I couldn't quite put into the words confidently. That moment taught me something, a powerful one. Being qualified is not enough. It's about how you present yourself, your story, and your energy. That's why today's session is much more relevant for everyone else. Whether you're preparing for your first interview or polishing or trying to polish your skills, interview readiness is something we all need to build up through practice, self-awareness, and support. So let me now introduce our amazing facilitator for today. We are honored to be joined today with Mr. Rehan Malik, a dynamic young consultant and strategist who currently serves as a junior consultant at Readiness. He contributes to EU-funded development projects in Sri Lanka and that focused on SME competitiveness and food system governance. Mr. Rehan holds a first-class degree in international business management from London Metropolitan University and SLIM, and he has a strong background in business transformation, branding, digital engagement, and strategic communication. But that's not all. Mr. Rehan is also a passionate youth leader, well known in Sri Lanka's model UN circuit, whether he now serves on management council. He brings a wealth of insight on how to impress in both online and in-person interviews, and he is here today to walk us through how to prepare, speak, and show up with confidence. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mr. Rehan Malik. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Zumaira. All right, so I think we've covered the first lesson already. Be punctual to meetings and always be ready with technical issues. So I clearly haven't done that with that meeting. Unfortunately, my devices gave up on me just as soon as I wanted to join this meeting. So I think we can get that out of the way. Right now, I am connected on my mobile until my laptop decides to go up on its own. I have shared the presentation with second. Hi, Ms. Nilum, I have shared the presentation via WhatsApp. Could you, by any chance, screen share if possible?
Yeah, I got it. I'll share it with you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, in the meantime, I just wanted to first of all apologize for the issues. I know time is a currency you cannot get back, and that's something I can't give back. But I'll make sure this session is very much worth it for all of you that have joined, especially if not just from Sri Lanka. I was told there was participants from Afghanistan and Pakistan as well. So I have something that I can indeed share with all of you. Um, and I think during the introduction they had mentioned my background and what I am currently doing. So my uh, experience is, while I am quite young and I also make mistakes, I'm also a bit learner. So before we start this session, I hope that everyone has that sort of attitude when it comes to this session. One thing for sure is I've been able to convince and ace my interviews when it came a skill I think I have developed my own methodology for, and believe I can share some insight with all the participants here today. To add on to that, I also would like to mention that another sense that uh, I so currently I serve as a junior consultant at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Um, I, um, I joined the UN without a degree. I had no degree. I only had 3 to 4 years of experience, but I was still hired. And after I found out how and why I was hired, they mainly said it was because of how you performed at the interview. At a very young age, those who are familiar with the development industry, you would know that getting into the United Nations without having at least a master's degree or even sometimes 10 to 15 years of experience, it is very difficult to get into the UN unless you want an intern position or it's a volunteer position. But fortunately for me, I was able to get in without an intern or volunteer position. I got in as staff, uh, which I later realized was because of my skills at the interview. So, like I said, there is a lot I that you can learn from my experience on that, and there's potentially, with the discussion points we have during this meeting, there's a lot I can learn from you as well. Just waiting for the presentation to come up.
So, sorry for the inconvenience. So it's still downloading, and I'll share it.
Um, Miss Melung or Zumair, is the presentation up? All right, super. Right. Okay. let us get started. Um, right. So this particular session, right, is on job interview readiness, right? A few tips and tricks that you can use from me, and uh, what you can use to ace your job interviews as you go on. Before I start, I would like to say that yes, these days it's a very tough market. No matter where you are, if you're in Sri Lanka, if you're in another location globally, it's a very tough market out there. And as we go along with this presentation, if you have any questions, you can use the chat box. If you don't want to open, unmute, or you can unmute and interrupt me at any point in time. No problem. I'm very happy to answer questions as long as I can deliver value. And you'll realize the importance of that word as we go through. If there is something that is, difficult to understand, please let me know. I will always explain it. Yeah. Okay. So can we go to the second slide? Yeah, it's a so all right. In the first slide, we spoke of how job interview readiness skills are. But I want to change the segment here. I know this might sound as a surprise to Ms. Telum and the IYAP team, but I want to talk about this in a way where it's how to sell or pitch you, right? Skills, confidence, and practice, right? Because job interviews are essentially where you are able to sell yourself, whether you are a good salesman or not. You inherently have the salesman inside of you. So through this session, you will learn how to bring that out and how to bring yourself out in order to sell you, right? Next slide. So as soon as I already kind of covered this about me. These are what I have done, and I will say I've been fortunate enough, and most of the time I've been able to achieve all of this was because I have gotten through my interviews properly. That has been the key thing. While my CV is sometimes not as great as everyone else, I have managed to go to the interview and sell and pitch myself. Um, Whether it was my degree, whether it was my job, whether it was my volunteer work, everything has been, I think, all my achievements, fortunately, and touch wood, has been because of my ability to ace my interviews. And yes, all of this has been done while I am only 23 years old. So, can we go to the next slide? So the job interview, right? It is the most, it is the toughest part of the whole thing because no matter what you write on your CV, no matter what you do as work, no matter what your degree is, at the end of the day, you're going to get questioned on it. You're going to you're going to have to walk the talk when it comes to the interview. It's essentially like a boxing match. It's you versus the interviewer. It is the scariest process, I mean, part of the process, right? Because you can write great essays, you can write great reports, you can build amazing websites, you can draft great CAD plans. But when it comes to the interview, if you don't, ace that, then none of that matters. I mean, you might get the job, but it won't be as what you expected. It's also a make or break situation, right? Because there's only two outcomes. You either get the job or you don't, and that's about it. And it's also very impromptu. You will not know you will, what you will, face. The questions sometimes are prepared, but sometimes it's not, and you have to be ready for that. Can we move to the next slide? All right. So let's first understand what does a job interview do, right? Can someone raise their hand maybe and tell me what exactly a job interview? What is its purpose? What does it look to achieve? Why do we participate? And why do we have to go through it? Shouldn't my CV just be enough? Um, anyone wants to raise their hand and tell us? Come on, guys, don't be shy. We'll have a very, very casual thing. This, as much as we can, let's try to keep it as a very casual chat today instead of a workshop. Any volunteers? If you're afraid to, unmute your mic, you can always type it on the chat. What is the purpose? We always forget about, the purpose of a lot of things before we do things. I mean, before we get into a lot of things. So let's understand what the purpose is, right? You can put it in chat. You can unmute. Anyone? You can raise your hand, or you can just straight away unmute and give an answer. Okay, going once, going twice. Wow. Okay, we have a very tough crowd today, but that's okay. So I'll anyway explain what this is about, right? Unless no, okay. So usually, what everyone thinks a job interview is it's basically a selection process where it's part of the selection process for a particular job that you have applied. That's the basic thing, right? And it's conducted by the employee, it's conducted by them, and that's what it wants to do, right? So I think we have an answer in the chat. Yeah, it's about getting the job, right? Exactly, right? um good, okay. So with that, let's move on to the next slide. So this is what most people think a job interview is, and this is what most of the answers I think we got here also kind of, entail. It is a selection process that an employer conducts on potential employees to assess if they are the right fit for the job by asking you a series of questions and conversing with you. That's what most people think. And in fact, I'd like to say that is the biggest misconception of what a job is, a job interview is. Next slide. Again, what most people think a job interview is. It is a selection process that an employer conducts on potential employees. So essentially, it is where you are nobody, right? And it is the employer that is the main person there. They are the ones who are, getting things done, and they are the main role. Of course, they are the ones who have the final decision. You can't you can't take that decision, but it's not just, it doesn't just end there, right? So here's what a job interview actually is. It is a process in which both employer and employee discuss if they are the right match for each other. Now, this match word, we've heard it a lot when it comes to a lot of other things in our lives, I'm pretty sure. Can we move to the next slide? So, the truth is, a job interview is like a first date, right? It's essentially where you and the employer meet and see if you are the right match for each other, right? Usually you would think, oh, I have to ace this interview, I have to somehow convince the employer. That is the wrong attitude that you need to have, right? The right attitude is to see if you are a match, and if you also need to prove that you are what the employer is looking for. So just like a first date, right? You have to treat it like a first date, where of course, in different cultures, it means something else. And I put a bit of another picture there down. If you can move to the next slide. It's essentially these are the two same thing, right? It's a first date, and it's for my brothers in Pakistan and Afghanistan, as well as myself, because I'm Muslim. We don't have first dates. What we have is we meet their parents for the first time, usually the father, right? And that is how, the relationship is established, right? But in a lot of other cultures, it's always a first date, right? So now, I hope you understand from this that it's not just a one-sided thing where the employer gets to move over you and you have to please the employer. That is not the case, right? You of course need to be able to convince your employer, right? And you need to be able to um, you need to sorry, I think there's a interference. So sorry, you need to be able to convince the employer, and the employer also needs to convince you, right? So let's understand why, right? As much as it's an employer, I mean, as much as an employer is looking for what is right, it's also the same for the employees to look for what fits best, right? Your job is important, right? But your job should not always kill you, right? And it should not put you in the wrong position when it comes to your career. So you need to be able to figure out, okay, is this the right fit for me, right? The next one, it's a 50-50 process, right? Give me 1 second. Okay, so yes, and a bit of a bonus thing there if you see to the corner, this is why you're also called the candidate, right? Just to make sure that you are, uh, uh, you know, aware. 1 second. Right. So, yeah, this is why you're also a candidate, right? And this is the truth. I hope you understand that. Next slide. Okay. So as the candidate, this is what you need to look for, right? You need to look for in an interview, you need to know what is the career progression, right? Usually when we go to these interviews, we always are answering questions. I want you to stop that. I want you to look for clues that, this is the right fit for you, right? So you need to understand if in terms of your career progression, if it is the right step for you, right? Sometimes you will apply for an executive position, but you're more qualified to be an assistant manager, right? And sometimes jobs will have the requirements of a assistant, I mean the responsibilities of an assistant manager, but call it an executive or vice versa. So you need to be able to figure out, okay, what is the right step in my career? And this is why you need to ask the interviewer also questions, right? Secondly, of course, you need to understand financial viability. If you can afford the job, you have to think of yourself like a business, right? Transport, is it work from home? Is it remote? What are the benefits? So you need to understand, okay, can you afford the job? Because there is no point in you spending over 80% of your income to do the job if you don't have, if you don't have things for yourself. And that's a very, bad ratio. A lot of people actually do that. And I don't think that's the right way to go about it, right? As much as learning is important, you also need to earn, right? And there's this famous saying, if you don't learn or earn at a particular place, then that means it's time to go, right? This is some advice that my mentors and bosses have told me, and I've followed to this date. Thirdly, how much are they willing to invest in you? This is not about salary, by the way. This is about, mentoring you, teaching you things. Your supervisor, your manager, are they, do they have that right industry exposure to give you things, to teach you new things, to develop your skills? Does this particular company have their own academy? Do they have their own, do they have their own thing going on, right? You need to understand those things. Growth, right? Honestly, this is one question. Sometimes in the job interview, if you don't, there'll be a particular section where they will ask, "Do you have any question for us?" Right? Questions like this will definitely get them thinking about, okay, this is a good enough, this is a good candidate. He's showing me charisma, which is a very important personality characteristic for one day, when you face the job interview. If like in my interviews, at least I always ask this, okay, how do I one day become the CEO of the company when they ask me, and I through that I understand, okay, how much I can grow, how much time it will take me to become the CEO of that company. And of course, the last one is salary and income benefits. Is it worth your time? Right? This is purely financial, right? Are you getting paid for your value? Not what you need, but what your market demand is, right? And that is a negotiation thing, and we'll get into that in a later section. Can we go to the next slide? What they look for in the interviewer. So this is the interviewer, guys. Now, previously we discussed about the candidate, which is you. Now we're talking about what the interviewer will look for during the interview. First off, of course, and very obvious, they will look at if you fit the requirements. Usually, and in most cases, I have participated in hiring sprints, and also I've seen a lot of people do this. A lot of HR and hiring managers, they will usually have a checklist and tick off what they're looking for. It's essentially like a small checklist. Okay, this guy has a degree, he's good, he has this amount of experience, he's great in data, he can do Photoshop, he can use AutoCAD, he is, an operations guy. They'll just tick, tick, tick and go, right? So that's what they want to look for. And, you need to really, this is where the job, in the job posting, they will usually give the requirements, right? And that is usually what they start ticking, ticking and going. So whenever you're answering a question, right, and if you know what they're looking for, right, always answer it with this in mind. Always, the second point is they're looking if you have the right attitude. So I'm not sure about the demographic here in terms of ages, but if you are someone under the age of 30, usually when a company is to hire you, they will see if you can be mentored, if you can be coached. If you are someone who doesn't have a learning attitude or to figure out how their company works, they won't hire you, right? Because they'll be like, oh, he's so full of himself. He or she is so full of himself. He won't fit in here. He will disrupt our system, and that's not exactly what we want by investing in a new hire, right? Uh, Third one is the same thing. Can you be coached, right? Are you willing to learn how the company does things? What you how you were successful at one company is different to how you're successful at another company. This is an entirely different subject called transformation. But that's you have to be able to say you're willing to learn. That's a very good sentence to say, even if you're 40 or 50 years old, even if you are the CEO. A lot of modern day CEOs actually say that they will usually spend a lot of time with interns, with the new recruits, because they want to understand how the thinking pattern works, and that's what they'll usually do. And mostly, the last, and this is very specific, I think, to Sri Lanka at least, is, are you here for the long run? Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of countries are going through this, but a skill shortage, right? And while companies understand that, they're willing to, okay, invest in you by helping you with your career growth and everything. So usually a big turn off, I'd like to say, to interviews, if you're not willing to stay in the long run. If you say, oh, because they will ask you, okay, what are your future plans? If you say, look, I want to work here for 2 years, make my money, and then migrate to Australia, they're not going to hire you, right? They won't waste their time. They won't help you at all, right? Um, they will look to see, okay, can this guy one day become the CEO of our company, right? That is what they look, because then they will start investing in you and they will start helping you in your growth, right? And it's also sometimes it's one of the biggest problems companies in the South Asian region face, actually, because they will train one person, they will help them with their growth, and then 1.5 2 years later, or even 6 months later, if they have got better money offers, they will leave. If they have got a better If they're going to migrate, they're left. That way, the company is at a loss. So they will look to, mitigate that particular issue. Last one, are we sticking to budget? This is something they are also looking at. In terms of salary, usually HR managers have a salary scale that they are working with, and that's how they will figure out if okay, we can hire him or not based on your salary ask, right? Uh, Next slide. Okay, let's do a bit of a activity here, right? Um, which is about simulating the interview. How many participants do we have in total? Um, Zumera,
Yes, sir.
or
There are like 15 participants.
yeah, apart from IYAP and me, is there
Yes,
how
sir.
many participants?
So apart from us also, like there are 15, including us, there are like 8.
Okay, can we break them into uh, you know uh, groups of three?
Sure, sir. I'll
Okay, before that, I'll explain how this will work, and then
sure,
we'll break them into groups of three. Yeah.
sure, sir.
Okay. Sorry, excuse me. So assume the roles of an HR personnel and candidate interviewing for a sales executive position, right? Break into groups of three into breakout rooms. Those who said one will become the candidate, those who said two will become the interview, and sorry, those who said three will be the independent reviewer, right? Take 10 minutes. Ask questions based on 5 expectations of your assigned role as given in the previous slides. First the interviewer, then the candidate. After that, the independent reviewer, who is the, I'd like to say, observer there, will decide if you are a good match. Both of you all are, not just if you are hired or not, if you are a good match, and tell us when we get back, right? So, Ms. Zumaira, can we also, before we go into the breakout rooms, also assign numbers 1, 2, 3 to each? Is that possible? All right. So let's go ahead and do that. Participants, I know you're a bit shy to say if you're 1, 2, 3, um, but I think if you can, so I'm just going to read your names, and then um, you will be either 1, 2, 3, right? According to the order I have here. So we have Dilmi Manuka 1, Diniti Tilanka 2, Dinuli Abekun 3, and that's one group. Next is Geetani 1, Jensi 2, Kausalya 3, Nathanan R 1, Ronali Lokubalasuriya 2, Rogesh Nirpaladan 3, that's another group. Sahika Pethaus 1, Sandanika Adhikari 2, Stalin Miltan 3, Tamini Nityantan 1, Umar Farooq Sahar 2. So based on that, one group, the last group will not have an independent reviewer. That's okay, right? Conduct the interview and let me know, right? And see between y'all if y'all are good match or not. Okay. Ms. Sumera, we can start the breakout room process. Okay, I think it's starting. Um, so you have about 10 minutes, but usually this won't take about 10 minutes. It'll ideally finish in 5 minutes. But I'll anyway, because we had technical difficulties and everything, do take about 10 minutes and we'll get back into session.